What's up everyone? Today I uncovered a chess treasure that I'm sure you will enjoy. This is Fidemaster Noam Wittenberg, back with the weekly upload. I stream 4 times a week on Twitch, 19 o'clock Central European Time, Monday and Thursday, 11 o'clock Central European Time, Saturday and Sunday. Links in the description down below. In this game from 1923, Frank Marshall was playing AJ McClurk. Unfortunately, the previous moves of the game remain undocumented and have been lost in time. You're indeed seeing the board correctly here. The legendary Frank Marshall, who was one of the strongest players of his time, an American champion from 1909 to 1936, is down a rook in this position. Feel free to write down in the comment sections if you would just resign as white here or if you would keep fighting. Frank Marshall, however, was known for being a notorious swindler, and it is rather noteworthy that he said to win a winning position is the most difficult thing in chess. He even published a book in 1914, Marshall's Chess Swindles. And Marshall Swindle is a term created in his name. If you haven't seen this example before, feel free to stop the video and try and find out how white can try and escape the inevitable defeat in this position. Alright, if you turn on the engine, it deems all moves as losing, it doesn't care. However, Frank Marshall is playing against a human and seizes another opportunity to go for a swindle, starting with the move c6 in this position. Now, the black rook on d7 is under attack and it has 3 squares it can go to. If it goes to either d8 or d6 in this position, then in fact black is winning. After rook d8, for instance. Rook takes f7. The thing is, black is obligated to give away the f7 pawn. However, they can just go king b8, defending the pawn on c7, stabilizing their position. And with an additional rook, black is going to be the clear victor and white has nothing more to play for. Now the move rook d6 actually draws in this position. I'm going to show you why in a moment. However, in the game was played rook e7 in this position. Frank Marshall goes h7. The pawn is now 1 square away from promoting. And in order to stop it, black has numerous options. Either rook e8, rook d8, or rook h5 to take control over the h8 promotion square. Now rook e8 was the winning move. However, black visibly didn't want to depart with the f7 pawn in this position. In fact, as Mark Dvoretsky has put it, materialism is a major sin in chess, that you're too addicted to not giving away material. Very often it's a good principle to not give away material for a reason, but it has its exceptions as well, for instance here. Now after rook takes f7, black would simply go king b8, defend the pawn on c7. And after rook g7, trying to promote the h7 pawn by going rook g8, black stops white's plan with rook d8 and it's game over, unfortunately, for white, as black is up a rook. Rook d8 also draws in this position, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. First, however, let's look at the move which was played in the game rook h5. In this position, it's already a draw by force. I encourage you to pause the video and try and find out, how can white make a draw in this position? Alright, white has the surprising resource rook h6. Rook takes h6 and h8 promotes the queen, forcing black to take. Now, you might be thinking, what? White just gave away the rook and a pawn which was 1 square away from promoting. Well, it turns out that after b5, there is absolutely no way for black to avoid a stalemate. White has been able to stalemate their own king here. And the game would finish in a draw. The game was agreed to a draw in this position. Now, if black wants to, they could try rook d7 in this position, sacrificing 1 rook, and after c takes d, claiming that it's not going to be stalemate right away. Unfortunately, the white will still just go d8, forcing rook takes d8 after f6, let's say. And white's king is in stalemate yet again. Now, if black tries to play for the win too ambitiously with either c6 or c5, in fact, black is the one who is losing, as after b takes c, the threat of c7 and the pawn's promote is very strong, and if black tries to go king b8 to prevent it, simply king takes b6, reinforcing the threat of c7, which becomes unpreventable in this position. Now the question is, what would happen after rook d6? I encourage you to pause the video and try and find how to draw this as white. Okay, it's pretty much exactly the same pattern as we saw in the game. Rook takes d6, rook takes d6 and h7. And after both rook d8 and rook h6, you're going to end up playing h8 queen. And then b5, and the king is in a stalemate again. And after c6, rook 7 d6, rook takes d6, c takes d. In fact, loses after c7, and it's not going to be possible to prevent c8 queen checkmate. Rook c5, you just take the rook. And after rook e7, h7, rook d8. How does white draw in this position? Well, it turns out that white is relying on the similar resource of stalemate by going rook takes f7. If rook takes f7, you go h8 queen, rook takes h8, b5, and we get the same position. And if the rook simply moves to e6, let's say, then white is able to take on c7, and due to the very strong passed pawn on h7 as well as the pawn on c6 and the weak pawn on b6 and the active white king on a6, white has sufficient compensation for the missing rook, and it's a roughly equal position, though highly unbalanced, and here either side could win. Alright, I hope this stalemate in the end put a smile to your face. And if it did, do not hesitate to subscribe, like, and share the video. See you next Tuesday.